Alrighty. Your first reader for the evening is Mr. Stephen Barker. Woo! Steve is a 2014-2015 Maine and Hugo House Fellow, and he's working on a collection of essays that detail the wide range of his short-term jobs held over the past 10 years. When he's not working on writing, he hosts the arts and entertainment podcast Ordinary Madness, which can be found at ordinarymadness.org. And he is the co-founder of Cheap Wine and Poetry and Cheap Beer and Prose. And a little anecdote about Steve is that Steve used to do some freelance writing for the Capitol Hill Times, and he reached out to us to do the first publicity that Breadline ever got. And we're, it was all that piece in the Capitol Hill Times just like sent us on that trajectory. It was all because of the local rag. But we're forever grateful for that, and really excited. This is the first time he's featured here. He's a buddy of mine. We go back. High school. I'm gonna stop. Please welcome up to the mic your first reader for the evening, Mr. Stephen Barker.
Thanks to Alex, Jeremy, and Greg. So many writers that I admire have read this, so it's an honor to be a part of it.
You're a Barker.
Good. In a room with a radio. I got drunk the night before my final interview in an effort to present myself as an undesirable employee. I'd advanced through multiple stages of the hiring process while hoping that I would eventually receive an email thanking me for my time, but stating I wasn't the right person for the job. However, 6 months on the dole had made it difficult to rationalize taking the dive. Even with the hangover, I boasted about my skills and provided examples of how I contributed at my previous jobs. Heck yeah, I know SharePoint, I said. At my last job, people came to me with all their SharePoint problems. The office prankster even put a SharePoint King sign on my cubicle when I left early for a dentist appointment. You sound exactly like the type of person we're looking for, said the gatekeeper at the end of the hiring labyrinth. I was offered a short-term contract writing promotional copy for cruise liners. I turned it down. The lack of job security was enough to convince me I'd made the right choice. It would only be a matter of time before the gig expired and I returned to the exact same situation. However, I was unaware that my unemployment benefits would halt after answering yes on my weekly questionnaire that asked, "Did you refuse any work this week?" It's possible I would have known that had I actually read the unemployment packet I was issued instead of using it as a placemat while eating everything bagels in front of the TV. I was also billed $1,400 back pay since it took 3 weeks after clicking yes for my checks to be discontinued. I considered my life had I accepted the job. Alarm at 6 a.m., in the car at 7:05. I choked down cigarettes to keep calm as I fought my way through congested lane changes. I'd spend the morning writing consumer-catching words like luxurious, affordable, and spacious. I'd eat lunch alone on a bench, even if it was cold, or in my car if it was raining, dreading the moment when I would have to return to my desk. I'd spend the afternoon fighting off a yawn, scrolling through Reddit, panicking every time my email chimed, fearing I'd published another typo. I'd smoke 2 more cigarettes on the ride home, the whole time praying for available parking near my apartment. If I was lucky enough to locate a spot in under 15 minutes, I'd run to the grocery store. Otherwise, I'd be too defeated from circling the block. I'd only have enough energy to flip channels until bed. I'd put off doing laundry until the boxer briefs with the broken elastic were the only pair left in the drawer, and spend Saturday drunk and waste Sunday with a hangover. A a few months of near poverty on a diet of Rainier beer and generic brand macaroni and cheese sounded like heaven compared to that life. The desperation set in when my savings could only support one more month of expenses. Fearing the possibility that I'd have to cash in a CD I'd anticipated growing for another 10 years, I applied to a Craigslist ad looking for a sexy house cleaner. Half a bottle deep in Canadian whiskey, I took a bathroom mirror selfie wearing little more than purple rubber gloves. I held a scrubbing brush in front of my face, making sure if the image ever ended up on the internet, I'd be unrecognizable. I never got a response, and honestly was a little hurt. My abs looked tight. Thankfully, one afternoon when I was considering selling off some books and records for gas money, a recruiter offered me a 2-week position in a warehouse that manufactured sporting goods. The pay was significantly lower than what I was used to, but I liked sports, and I worked in warehouses throughout college. Unlike office work, warehouse duties had clearly defined goals. The job was done when the truck was loaded or the racks were empty. A completed piece of copy could go through 10 drafts before someone decided it was headed in the wrong direction. Do you think you could give this another shot? One of my previous bosses used to say when she was unhappy with my work. I don't think this is the right message. How about just starting over with fresh new ideas? Really entice the reader. There's a free buffet. It almost writes itself. Warehouse managers approached assignments meticulously and told you exactly what to do without the passive-aggressive tone common in offices. I was actually kind of excited to return to blue-collar work after a 6-year hiatus. Good, said the baby-faced manager as he evaluated his newest piece of livestock. You look like you can carry a few boxes. I can. He handed me an open box filled with tags. These are your sizes. S means small, M means medium, L is... He stopped himself. You get it. You're not an idiot. Apply 1 sticker to each card. When you run out, let me know. The rest of the temps each held a box similar to mine, and we traded nervous smiles. We all knew it best not to get comfortable until the situation had been thoroughly assessed. Managers all had their own way of interacting with short-term contractors. Some were grateful to be helped out of a jam and sprang for sandwiches at lunch, while others were against on-the-clock bathroom breaks. Really appreciate you guys all being here, said the project manager. I'm going to be running around all day. Don't hesitate to stop me if you have any questions. I was drawn to a beat-up boombox in the corner of the room. The volume knob was missing and the tip of the antenna was kinked. Kokomo drifted from the blown-out speakers, and I thought, with all the great Beach Boy songs, how come that abomination gets the most airplay? I considered sharing this thought with the group, but figured I should first locate the temp who would be most appreciative of my insight into contemporary pop music. Only then could I present my argument on why Kokomo is, without question, the worst Beach Boys song ever recorded. My supporting facts included the detail that Brian Wilson took no part in writing the song, as well as the point that any shred of cool the band still possessed in the early 90s was eviscerated by the music video featuring the cast of Full House and neon beaches. Across from me sat a woman I placed in her early 40s, and based on the way she didn't concern herself with placing the sticker directly in the designated outline, I sensed she'd expected more at this point in her life. Her yogi body and turquoise necklace inspired me to call her hippie chick. At another table sat a dumpy little fella who was blabbing on about a recent trip to Japan to an uninterested frat boy. Dumpy was quite pleased with himself as he regaled frat boy with stories about eating eel and seeing cherry blossoms. I would have rather listened to Kokomo on repeat than hear about how they don't even know what a California roll is over there. How about you? Are you a traveler like me? Dumpy asked frat boy. Not yet. I've been counting on baseball to provide travel opportunities, but I blew out my shoulder last season. The Japanese love baseball. Me too, frat boy said, placing a hand on his shoulder as he rotated it. Doc's diagnosis was so bad, I lost my scholarship. You should study abroad. Japan changed my life. Frat boy didn't respond. We worked in silence until the project manager returned. Now for the fun part, he said, with the phony enthusiasm of a youth pastor delivering an anti-masturbation sermon. Now we get to add these cool new labels to replace the old labels. I barely recognize the difference, but imagine market research showed that a label with an image of a guy scaling a mountain sold more than one without. As I adjusted from sticking stickers on cardboard to replacing old tags with new ones, I tried to figure out what time it was based on the songs I heard. First, there was that piece of shit called Pen, followed by a Phil Collins song I always call Take a Look at Me Now, even though I'm pretty sure that's not the title. Then a Macy's Christmas commercial made me think about that time in kindergarten when a classmate got a nosebleed during the holiday concert. The irony that had happened during Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had never occurred to me. Somehow I'd gone my whole life seeing an image of little Scotty Northrop's nose pouring blood every time I thought of Rudolph without making a red-nose connection. I lost track of the next few songs while noodling on that revelation, eventually coming to in the middle of Love Shack. Finally, a good one, I said to Hippie Chick. Not bad, she responded without looking up. Rock Lobster is probably my favorite jam of theirs, but this is a good one too. I don't know that one, she said. The bass line might be the best in music history, I proclaimed, a fact I only partially believed, but thought might spark conversation. It did. That afternoon, I played a game in my head where I tried naming the title and artist of each song before the DJ announced it. I was really good at titles, but had difficulties with the band names. Tuxedo Junction, Nick Dowler, who were these people? When a really good forgotten song came on, I made a mental note to add it to my playlist when I got home. They don't make songs like this anymore, I said to Hippie Chick when the Patti Smith's Because the Night came on. I love her, she said, putting down the glove she was working on and looked up at me for the first time. Have you read her memoir? I've been meaning to, I said. If you're a fan, you've got to. Patty was enough of a conversation starter that we spent the rest of the afternoon talking about everything from our mutual fondness of Portland and the outdoors to what it's like to train for a marathon. When I got back to my apartment later that day, I loaded my iPod with Patti Smith and Answer the One. By mile 4, I burned off the nervous energy built up from doing the same motion all day and felt relieved knowing the next 2 weeks of my life came with a paycheck. The repetitive nature of the work allowed my mind to wander and planted jumping off topics for me to ponder, like a critique on the fact that, although commercially more successful, and with the exception of Janie's Got It Done, everything Aerosmith produced sober was inferior to the songs recorded when Tyler and Perry's drug use was so out of control they were dubbed the Toxic Twins. Or the realization that Journey's Don't Stop Believing can make any moment feel significant. Had I taken the job and spent the day writing marketing copy, my mind would never have had the opportunity to wander further with my favorite pizza toppings. The second week we were tasked with rebranding Bleecker. The second week we were tasked with rebranding balaclavas. I pretended like I knew what those were, but thought, is a Greek dessert really considered sportswear? Then realized a balaclava was what I had been ignorantly referring to as a bank robber mask my whole life. Now we get to use these hella neat guns, the project manager said, holding up a pink pistol with a needle-point barrel. He pointed it at me and turned his wrist. Break yourself, fool. Nice, I said, nodding my head to let him know I caught the reference. I need you guys to snip off the old labels, then use this gun to attach new ones, he said, demonstrating the process. I snipped the label off the first balaclava, then poked the barrel through the fabric and pulled the trigger. As I got comfortable with the process, I recognized the subtle beginning of radar love. I snipped another, attached another, snipped, attached, snipped, attached. We got a thing, and it's called radar love. I was about to answer golden earring in my mental game show when the gun misfired and broke the skin. I sucked the blood and wiped my finger across the back of my jeans. Snip, attach, snip, attach, stab. Frat boy looked up at me with concern. Did you nick yourself? This song makes me want a fast car, I said, trying to distract attention from the blood trailing down my hand. Yowza, the project manager said when he noticed my flesh wound. You need medical attention. It's nothing, I said. Let's get a Band-Aid on that so we don't ruin the merchandise. Sorry, I said. Happens all the time. Up on the 5th floor, they can't keep Band-Aids in stock. There are people that do this every day, I asked. How else would we get tags on gloves, he said. A machine, maybe? I said, finding a new appreciation for tag adders across the globe. I'm surprised you haven't sought cheaper labor overseas. Before he had a chance to respond, Frat Boy approached holding up his bloody hand. Imagine having to do this every day, Frat Boy said, bandaging himself up. That would be awful. In high school, I raked leaves on a golf course at 5 a.m., and that was better than this. Do you play much golf, I asked? It's an expensive hobby, but I play as much as I can, which is only a few times a year. We spent the afternoon talking about sports. He told me about his injury and how he'd originally planned on entering the minors after college before getting hurt. I guess I'll have to start focusing on classes, he said. At the end of the day, we exchanged information and talked about meeting up for a beer sometime. When I drove home, a story came on NPR about a suicide protest at a Chinese factory. 150 workers had threatened to leap to their death if their working conditions weren't improved. After a 2-day standoff, they were coaxed down. Suicide was so common at that factory they installed nets to catch jumpers. On Friday, Frat Boy and I returned from lunch at the same time. Since we weren't official employees, we didn't have access to the employee elevator and had to use the freight elevator. When we got in, it had already been called, so we were brought up to the 5th floor instead of the 3rd. The gate opened to a large room with rows of stations about a foot apart from one another. The room was filled with foreign chatter, and women were hunched over boxes of mittens. Michael Jackson's Beat It was playing on the radio, and they were all nodding their heads, while pulling gloves and clipping on new tags. They worked with such grace and speed that Frat Boy and I just looked at each other. Slack-jawed. We didn't say anything, but we were both thinking, they're a lot better at this than us. They all had smiles on their faces. I doubted any of them considered going up to the roof and taking a dive. A man pushing a cart stacked high with boxes got in the elevator with us. You go down, he said. We go down, Frat Boy said. We finished the last box at 3 p.m. and were told we could leave early with a full day's pay. When I got home, I did my typical routine of adding new songs to my iPod and went for a run. I tried to calculate the number of stickers I applied to cardboard tags. I figured it was somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000, considering I did about 500 a day. I felt accomplished. When it started, one side of the room was filled with boxes with the wrong tag, and when I left, all those boxes had been corrected and filed away in their appropriate spot in the warehouse. When I received my paycheck, I'd earned enough money to pay off the first portion of my debt to the government, with a little left over for brand name macaroni and cheese.